Hey everybody, this is Rob Smith coming to you live from Eagan, Minnesota at the Body Project, and we are in our third day of our 28 days of the Pyramid of Physical Performance. And I want to kind of recap what we covered yesterday. Yesterday we were talking about mindset and really how important mindset is in really optimizing physiological function, because if we take a look at the mechanics versus the psychology, if we don't have our psychology right, we're not going to take action, so it doesn't matter how good our plan is. So mindset is a very critical component to optimizing physiological success. We talked about the average person has between 20 and as many as 60,000 thoughts per day. So just think about that for a second. Between 20 and 60,000 thoughts per day. And unfortunately, it's been shown that 98% of our thoughts are on repeat. Meaning we are thinking the exact same thoughts we thought yesterday, the day before, and the day before that. Because we are ultimately creatures of habit. But I think the one thing that really blew me away, and it blows a lot of people away, is 80% of our thoughts on a regular basis are actually negative in nature. 80%. And you think about that. Like I was saying yesterday, I find myself to be a relatively positive person, but then I started to really think about it, and there's so many times, whether it's fear of the unknown, it's kind of a protective mechanism. Your brain tends to go more towards the negative side of things. And when I take a look at the mind, I like to think of it as a garden. And if you look at a garden, if we want our garden to flourish, then we have to care and nurture the soil. If we don't care and nurture the soil, the weeds will overtake us. Well, the same can really be said about our minds. If we don't protect our minds, then the weeds of negativity will really overcome our mind. And so we talked a little bit yesterday also about how people lock their house at night. They lock their cars and they're protecting their belongings. But we also have to protect our minds. So you really have to make sure what you're feeding your mind on a regular basis, because that's ultimately going to dictate how you feel throughout the day. Also talked a little bit about attitude and how your attitude really determines your altitude. And it's the one thing that we have control. We certainly can't control our circumstances. Living here in Minnesota, this weather has been horrific. Set the all-time snow record for February. And, we can't control that, but we can control our mindset. And so if you have an upbeat, positive mindset, you can overcome a lot. So that's such a great foundational piece. We also talked about really establishing your whys. Why do you want to do an exercise program? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to get stronger? Why do you want to get leaner? So it's important to really establish your why. And for me, and one of the things, like I was mentioning, I put in my bookmark when I wrote my book, is I take care of my body today so I can enjoy my magic moments tomorrow. And for me, because I love being physical, I love to hike. It's one of my favorite things. I just really want to make sure I can do that for a long time. I also had a child later on in life, and I want to make sure I'm able to be really strong and vibrant and do the things I want to do with her as she gets older. So it's really important to establish what your whys are as well. Another thing too that I talked about was just raising our standards. I mean, sometimes we get lulled into this apathy, and sometimes life gets in the way. And personally, I've always set a specific threshold of, if I get, close to that threshold, it's like, okay, it's time to tighten things up. So I think it's important also to establish a threshold of where you're, unwilling to go, so to speak. So if we look at, just the focus and the philosophy of raising our standards, I think it's something that, of course, everyone is capable of raising their standards, even much higher than they are presently. So it reminds me of a story. In 1954, there was a gentleman by the name of Roger Bannister. And Roger had set out to set the goal of breaking the 4-minute mile. Nobody in the history of running had ever broken the 1 mile mark under 4 minutes. They said it was physiologically impossible. It can't be done. And for as long as man has been running and records have been set, that was kind of the creme de la creme. That was the crowning jewel, if you will. But they just said, doctors, physiologists just said, it's an impossibility. But Roger Bannister, what he did is he said, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to raise my standards, and I'm going to show everybody what's possible. Well, as some of you may know, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile in 1954. And since then, I think there's well over 1,000 people that have done it. Now there's even high school kids that are breaking the 4-minute mile. So, sometimes we have to take a look at history and what some of the people in history were able to do to really help motivate us and to break our own barriers. So I would encourage you not to set limits, and then be very, very careful of who's placing those limits. Is someone else placing a limit on you? And use that as fuel to really drive you to accomplish even higher heights. And then, what I wanted to talk about is, there's really 4 controllables. And talked a little bit about, we certainly can't control the weather. We can't control other people as much as sometimes we'd like to. But we just can't control other folks. So what we can control is what our intentions are. We always have control of our intentions to do or be whatever it is we want to do or be. So after we set the intention, the next thing we have control over is our attention. So we're putting our attention on whatever we've intended to accomplish. So it starts with our intention, and then we place a focus or attention on our intention to maybe achieve a new goal. The other thing is that we can control is our emotions. Now, emotions are a tricky thing, and I'm going to be talking about emotions a little deeper next week, but what we have to do is realize when we're feeling an emotion like fear or frustration, we have to set the attention on that emotion and then see what we can do to maybe sometimes talk ourselves off the ledge, so to speak. But really figure out what emotion you're experiencing, and then just see if you can navigate past that. And so, for instance, if we take a look at even today, dealing with the snow and the cold where we live, sometimes we just have to change it instead of frustration to fascination. Wow, isn't it amazing how Mother Nature works? And then go out and have some fun in it. Because the other thing that we can control is really our physiology, and that's how we respond to the stress that we have. The stress I'm talking specifically is emotional stress. I mean, if we look at the stressors that our bodies deal with on a daily basis, there's food stress, there's chemical stress, there's electrochemical stress, there's heavy metals, there's scars, there's so many different things, immune challenges, parasites, viruses, there's all these other stresses. But what I'm talking about specifically here today is more of the emotional stress, because emotional stress has a huge impact on our health and certainly our physiology, how we look, how we feel, how we perform. So those are really our four controllables: our intention, attention, our emotions, and then our physiology. So let's talk about goals and how important goals are and what it takes to really set them. In the world of archery, there's a legend by the name of Howard Hill. And Howard Hill is regarded as maybe the greatest archer of all time. Howard Hill was a man who could split the bullseye with an arrow and then follow it with another arrow right through that first arrow. He could shoot, and he's demonstrated amazing videos on YouTube on Howard Hill, but shooting an apple off a guy's head, I mean, you gotta have a lot of confidence in a guy to let him shoot an apple off your head, which is amazing in and by itself. But then he actually shot a plum off a guy's head. It was amazing. You gotta watch this video. But Howard Hill, these amazing archery feats. And what's the point of the story is, imagine this, if I said, there's no question in my mind, you could be a better archer than Howard Hill. Without question, you could be a better archer. And you'd be like, heck, I don't even know anything about archery. I don't even know if I could pull a bow back. Well, trust me, you could with the right tools. But you said, well, I'd have to practice for years and years to be as proficient and as good as Howard Hill. Well, I tell you what, you could certainly beat Howard Hill on his best day if we blindfolded Howard Hill, we spun him around 4, 5, 6 times, and let him just take aim and shoot. Well, you think that may sound crazy, but it's as simple as this. You can't hit a target you can't see. So even as great of an archer as Howard Hill was, he couldn't hit a target he couldn't see. And just like Howard Hill, being blindfolded, you can't hit a target you can't see. So in terms of goals, what we want to do is we want to make sure we identify what our goal is, and then we start breaking it down into micro steps. So how do we set SMART goals, and what are SMART goals? So using the acronym of SMART, the S stands for specific. So if we look at setting a specific goal, we don't want to just say, I'm going to set a goal of being healthier, because what does that really mean? Your definition of healthier might be different than my definition. So a better goal would be, say for instance, I want to lose weight. Okay, so then we've got the specific of we're losing weight. Now the M stands for measurable. So you say I want to lose 30 pounds. Now we've got a very specific and a measurable goal. Now, if we take a look at the third one, we also want to go with R, which is a relevant goal. Now, is it relevant to, some of the other goals or your specific lifestyle? So we have to make sure, for instance, it's got to be specific, it's got to be measurable, it's got to be achievable. You got to make sure, I forgot the A, it's got to be achievable. So the achievable is, let's say you say I want to lose 30 pounds, and I want to lose 30 pounds in a month. Was it possible? Sure, it's possible to lose 30 pounds in a month, but if you've never lost more than 10 pounds, it might not be probable. So we have to make sure for your mindset to build some momentum, it's got to be achievable. Now our last weight loss challenge we had a woman who lost, I think it was 23 or 24 pounds in just 21 days. So some of these weight loss goals are possible, but you have to know where you are hormonally, you have to know where you are commitment-wise, and you have to make sure you set yourself up for a win. So again, it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, and then now here's the R, it's got to be relevant. So based on some of your other goals and lifestyle, is it relevant to those other things? And then the T stands for time bound. So I want to lose 30 pounds, I want to take 3 inches off my waistline, and I want to do that within 6 months. So we really want these goals to be time bound. And then if we look at SMART P goals, the P stands for we want to state the goals positively. And it's important to always make sure before you're going through your goals is really win in your mind first. And what I mean by winning in the mind, we want to visualize being successful. We want to visualize losing that 30 pounds. We want to visualize how good we're going to feel, how much energy we're going to have, all the other things we're going to be able to do because we reached that goal. So visualization is really the foundation. You have to win in your mind first. So we win in our mind, we set the goals, and then what we do is we have our steps. So what I have is I have a journal with my goals in. It's important to not just have goals, but you should really write them down. And I follow a 5 mountain plan. So I've got a group of physical goals. And not only do I have my goals here, but then I also have my plan here. The reason why I did the visual is because I've got it in my binder, and then I've got a couple of posters in my office. I've got one at home. So I'm always looking at it. So it's kind of top of mind awareness. I'm always looking at it. Oh yeah, I gotta spend more time on this particular mountain. So I've got physical, I've got mental. So on my physical, I have like strength goals, I have flexibility goals. My mental mountain, I do regular breathing goals, or breathing exercises, I should say. I read for anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes every day. I go through about 10 to 15 minutes of daily affirmations. I write for about 30 minutes a day. So here's all my mental goals. And what I talk about is the activities that I have on a regular basis to achieve that goals. I have that in my binder. So I kind of have my breakdown of everything in my binder. 3, then I actually have emotional goals. So I like to do a gratitude journal. I like to send gratitude cards out to people that have had a positive impact on me and just express my gratitude to them. And then I also do energy work, so I'm actually looking at some of the negative emotions that I might struggle with and then clear those emotions on a regular basis. Intuitional, I focus on some daily prayer, and then I talked earlier, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but the power of our intuition, our sixth sense, that we really all have this amazing internal wisdom. Sometimes we have to just stop and listen to that internal wisdom. So I really make that a focus of ensuring that I'm doing that on a regular basis. And then Kokoro is basically the combination heart-mind, and that's where we're talking about some charitable work, doing some work with an organization that our staff went and supported was Feed My Starving Children. In just a couple hours, we were able to feed, I think, 36 or 37 families for the year. And it was a great staff activity. We had a lot of fun, and it was a way to give back. But it's important to have various categories. Don't just think about your physical, think about your family goals, think about maybe some travel goals you might have. Whatever that is for you, it's important to establish various categories. Make sure you have your why of why you want to do it. Do strong visualization. Remember what the controllables are, and then take a look at your categories. And then what's important is on a regular basis, what I like to do is actually go through a contemplation journal where I'll actually go through and just see how I'm doing on each of my areas that I've set up. That way I can kind of troubleshoot, you know what, I'm having some trouble with this, or maybe sometimes just reevaluating your goals, because it's not written in stone. It's important though that it is written down, it is time bound. Just make sure you go through that SMART, the acronym SMART. So specific, measurable, achievable, is it relevant, is it time bound? So I encourage you all to make sure that you're writing your goals down. And obviously we're talking about the physical mountain, we're talking about doctor movement here during the next 28 days. So really have your specific health and fitness goals down. Tomorrow what I'm going to be talking about is the importance of habits. And obviously we are all creatures of habit, and habits can really make or break you. So you want to stay tuned tomorrow for my talk on habits. Now another thing too, if you got some good information here with this video today, please like the video, share it with a friend or family member that might be able to get some help out of this video. And then another thing too is I think we talked about we can make sure you get alerts for all the videos that are coming out. Remember, I'm going to go through the whole pyramid over the course of 28 days, so make sure you stay with me during this ride. Again, if you have any questions, based on some of the information I'm sharing, please submit those. We'll obviously be able to read them, we'll go through them, and then that way we can kind of start answering some of these questions as we go through. So hopefully you got some good tips today with today's live presentation, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.